I've never used a leverless arcade pad before. I know they're supposed to be really good with fighting games, but over the past few years, I've kind of fallen off. A couple years back, I was really into fighting games, and leverless pads and hitboxes weren't really a thing. Seeing as how we've had some really good fighting games come out lately, I thought what better time to get back into the fray and finally try one of these things out. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the G16 and the M16 made by Haute42. They fall into the category of budget leverless arcade pads, and full disclosure, these two were sent over to me. I was told to try them out, and as always, you're going to get a complete and honest review out of me. Taking a look at the M16 first, the packaging is fairly basic but nicely secured. I would say this is a more medium-sized arcade pad, but it is very thin. I know Razer makes a ultra-thin leverless pad, and I feel like this one heavily draws inspiration from that, but in a more budget-friendly manner. It's got 16 face inputs that are of standard configuration, but everything is customizable. The entire casing is this brushed aluminum that actually is really nice to the touch. Despite its size and thinness, it's actually got some pretty solid weight to it. The entire pad has a surprisingly premium feel about it. Not what I expected from this price point. The buttons are solid, smooth, and not too tactile. It uses KO low profile switches, but one cool thing is that the switches are hot swappable. You can always pull off the buttons, pull out the mechanical parts, and replace it with whatever switches you see fit. The pad is compatible with a variety of different devices: PC, Nintendo Switch, and PS4 to name a few. Unfortunately, to get it working with the PS5 will require the use of a converter that's not included. But while using it on the PS5, it really did work great. In terms of I/O, it has a USB Type-C port that's used to connect it to whatever device you plan on playing it on, as well as an extension port. Over on the top right is where you have all of your function buttons. This is where you'll find your start, your back, your home button, and even where you can turn on or off the turbo feature. And in the upper left-hand side, you have this little mini OLED display that will display all of the crucial information regarding your pad. It tells you what input you're using, will show you which buttons have turbo activated, and even allows you to in real time gauge the sensitivity of your buttons. Once all plugged in, the buttons have this really subtle RGB glow to them. It makes it really good for low light environments, and they're not overly bright or obnoxious. Now once again, bear in mind, I am completely new to leverless pads. So do excuse the horrible gameplay and multiple drop inputs. I'm still getting the hang of all of this. But I will say that playing with the M16 was a really good experience. I still have a lot to learn and a lot to get used to, but I was really enjoying playing on this leverless pad. Playing some of the older stuff, muscle memory kicked in and I was able to sloppily string a few things together. But I have to say the overall feel of using this specific leverless pad showed a lot of promise. There was enough there to make me realize that this is a route that I want to go. And any dropped inputs were purely user error. The M16 was ultra responsive and felt really smooth and tight. I love that I was able to just plug this thing into my Steam Deck and it was every bit as responsive as it was with my home PC. As someone with larger hands, you would think that the size of this pad would be a hindrance, but it surprisingly wasn't. When you remove the joystick, you'd be surprised at how little space you actually need to really pull things off. Would I have preferred a larger size? Yes, definitely. But was the M16 comfortable? Yeah, I would have to say that it was. Connecting it to the PS5 using a converter, I didn't notice any input delay or any real latency. It was actually a much easier transition using it for MK1, but I think that's largely due to the way the game engine is built. I'm still not particularly good at this specific game, but it was much more comfortable using the leverless pad on here. Switching over to the G16, everything felt like a smaller, meatier, more compact, cheaper version of the M16. It has this epoxy polymer glass type shell that actually gives it some solid weight, but it has no rubber feet on it, so it's sliding all over the place. You definitely need some type of mat or something along those lines if you're going to use this one, or just put a couple of pieces of rubber on the bottom of it. Such a small detail, but really makes it that much more inconvenient to use. Its overall size was too small to be comfortable for my liking, and it doesn't use the same switches as the M16. It uses these Greywood V4 switches that give off this squishy chiclety sound that just drives me up the wall. I can't stand this sound. It's compatible with everything that the M16 is compatible with, giving it some really solid versatility. Its buttons are much smaller, but it has the same amount of button inputs. It even has the little mini OLED display. It lights up a little less subtle than the M16, but I still wouldn't call this obnoxious. The problem I had with it is I just couldn't find the comfortable position for my hands. The buttons are small enough to really affect my inputs, and the damn thing clacks all over the place. But if you're someone with smaller hands and you don't mind a little excess noise, I could see someone getting some decent use out of this as a beginner, entry-level, leverless arcade pad. It's definitely small and compact enough to throw into a travel bag and take with you wherever you're trying to go. With all of the functions and features and for the price, I really wouldn't call this thing bad, but it is a major step down from the M16. The overall experience using the G16 left much to be desired. But for a sub $100 leverless arcade pad, you can't really be all that disappointed. So the G16 and M16 by Haute42. Guys, I have to say my first time dabbling in the leverless space was an overall positive experience. I think either one of these makes a fairly decent entry-level leverless pad. If you're really on a tight budget, the G16 will get the job done, but I truly feel that you're better off rummaging a couple of extra bucks and getting the M16. I was really impressed with the way it performed, the way it felt, the quality of the buttons. For the asking price, you're getting a really good deal here. I still have a long way to go before I am proficient using one of these things, but I'm really looking forward to it. If you guys are interested in the M16 or the G16, I'll put links in the description below. Until next time, this is Ness, signing out.